Hello, and welcome to Pie Man Pictures. Today, we're not going to be talking about a movie or film of any kind, but we're actually going to be talking about a game. And this game hasn't even been released yet. I've only just started playing the beta not too long ago, and after hearing some of my friends talk about it and watching some videos about other YouTubers reviewing it, I thought, you know what, I kind of have some things I want to talk about, and that's what this video is for. Now, if you guys already couldn't tell about what game I'm talking about, it's this one. This one right here, right behind me. Yeah, the new Avengers game that's coming out in, I think, a couple weeks now. I think it's the beginning of September. But yeah, it's going to be out not too much longer. So, I played the beta not too long ago, and I think the game's going to be okay. Now, I don't think it's going to be the greatest game of all time, and I don't think it's going to be the worst game of all time. But it's, you know, it's got its pros and cons, and I kind of wanted to talk about that. So I'm not really categorizing these in, you know, the technical pros and cons, the story pros and cons, and all that stuff. I kind of wanted to wait and do a full review of that when the actual game comes out, but I just kind of wanted to go over some things that I liked and disliked just from the beta, because I don't think it's fair for me to give it a full review. I know the beta is not giving it some slack, because the beta is still pretty much the finished product. It's really just testing for network connections and latency and all these other kind of minute details, but still kind of want to give it the benefit of the doubt. So to start off with a pro. One pro I wanted to say about this game is the character models and the design of the game. I really like how each of the characters look. They're not the most unique variations of each of the character, but they put their own style of it to separate it from the MCU. So that way it's not just a carbon copy paste of Chris Hemsworth as Thor and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. Now, if you guys are familiar with any of the Avengers TV shows and whatnot, you'll notice that the characters like Thor and Black Widow are actually from those same shows. I think it's nice that you have voice actors that already kind of know how these characters are supposed to behave and react, so it kind of feels more real when these characters are in life-threatening situations or even just in conversations with other characters. Kind of one of the minor pet peeves that I had about one of the characters was Tony Stark. I felt like his character is he was cracking way too many jokes, and I know that's his character at times, but I feel like Tony Stark is more arrogant rather than he is funny. Like, he knows he's the smartest person in the room, and he proves that time and time again. So I feel like a lot of his remarks are more about how everyone else is dumb and he's smarter. So that's one pro. Now, a con that I had with the game is kind of how the characters move and some of the gameplay mechanics that I didn't really like. Like, for instance, when I'm walking around as Hulk, I feel like the movement is just a little off to me. Like, walking around, I feel like I'm light on my feet and I don't feel like a giant green superhuman monster. Now, I get that some of that experience with like some of the camera shake and the vibration in the controller, but ultimately just walking around feels kind of weird, especially the solo story mission that you do as Hulk and some of the other movements you do in some of the group co-op missions. Now, this doesn't ruin it, but it definitely makes it feel off, especially when I'm fighting people. This, I think, is where it kind of throws me off a lot. So when you're playing as the Hulk, you know, you're fighting bad guys and you're like punching robots and punching bad guys, but it takes like 2 or 3 hits to sometimes kill a really low-level grunt, which kind of throws me off because Hulk is massive and he would destroy anybody in any given situation in one punch if it's like a normal human character or even just a robot, because the Hulk is incredibly strong. See what I did there? The Hulk is just a big giant ball of muscle. So to me, seeing him having to take 2 or 3 punches to kill one grunt, my suspension of disbelief is thrown for a loop, because I know what kind of game I'm getting into. I know these characters aren't real. I know these situations aren't real. But if you're gonna give me a character that I know would just destroy anybody like me or any normal person, then I feel like by having them take 2 or 3 punches to knock out someone like me, I think it's kind of just weird, and it throws me off just a bit. Now, the kind of the same thing can be said about like Thor. His character, you know, he kind of hits people with his giant magical hammer that shoots lightning, and it takes 2 or 3 hits to, you know, knock out guys with full-on body armor. But these are also kind of pet peeves as well. These aren't really cons that destroy the game, but these were just kind of things that I noticed, and I'm like, this kind of throws me off. And I know that doesn't ruin the game, but it can definitely throw off a fan base or even just person who wants to enjoy a superhero game and wants to just, you know, completely wreck people. An example I'm thinking of is the old Hulk video game from the 2008 film, The Incredible Hulk. Now, when you played as the Hulk, you destroyed everything in your path. You got onto a building, and if you walked on it too many times, that building would collapse. You could pick up the street and throw it at someone. It was like GTA The Incredible Hulk. You would knock someone out in one punch, and not just knock them out, you'd yeet them across the entire city if like you just brushed by them. So to me, that's where I have the problem of like, why is the Hulk taking 2 or 3 punches to knock out one dude, and you've got to fight 5 of these guys? So to me, I just think it's weird. But anyways, now to actually comment on the gameplay aspect of it, the mechanics of it aren't as smooth and sharp either. I feel like when I'm going to attack an enemy or press, punch or square to punch an enemy, it seems slow and sluggish. It doesn't seem as quick and fast as some other beat 'em up type adventure games. Now when I think of this, I think of God of War. One thing I was kind of disappointed of with Thor, I feel like throwing Mjolnir and throwing the hammer seems very sluggish compared to something like God of War, where it's literally the same mechanic. Him throwing the axe is so fast and so smooth. It was one of the main things that I loved, and I know pretty much everybody who played God of War loved. It was so fast and so responsive, and you just felt the destructive power of it, even with it being so light and fast to throw at people. They could have made the mechanics of throwing Thor's hammer so much smoother and faster. Like, I just don't feel as powerful when I'm throwing it, or it just doesn't feel as satisfying. I think is more the correct term for that. I don't feel as satisfied throwing Thor's hammer as I do throwing Kratos' battle axe at people. To me, I feel like they kind of messed up on the mechanics there. And not just that, but just in fighting people in general. Like I said, the mechanics aren't as quick and snappy as I feel like a lot of other beat 'em up games are. And I feel like some of the dodging and the combo, some of the dodging mechanics are they don't work as well, especially in the fight between Black Widow and Taskmaster that you play in the beta. I feel like dodging some of his attacks just felt so slow, and like every time I'd press the dodge button, I swear I'd press it 2 or 3 times before he attacks and it wouldn't do anything. I'd still get hit, and that part I wasn't enjoying. When it comes to stuff like this, I know I'm not the best, but to me, it's like, if I feel like I've pressed the dodge button multiple times and still no dodge response, I feel like there's also a problem with the game. Alright, now I know I've gone on a little bit of a tangent and some of my thoughts may have gotten mixed up, but now I kind of want to get it back on track here. So yes, the gameplay mechanics are a bit slow and sluggish, and I feel like some of the character movements and mechanics are just not as satisfying as I'd like them to be. Now this isn't to say that all the mechanics aren't good. I do like some of the combo mechanics they have when it comes to fighting. I do like a mixture of the light and heavy attacks, especially when you finally land that perfect combo and you just feel so satisfied once you've defeated an enemy with that I feel like that kind of helps it a little bit. And when I was playing this, I thought I wasn't doing a good job, and I think I have to definitely get used to the mechanics of this game, because when you first start to play this game, you don't really know too much of the controls. You probably know your basic moves and attacks, but you don't get to utilize them well. Not until later in the game when you go into like basically the training room, and that's where the game actually teaches you, hey, these are your light and heavy attacks. This is how you can perform a combo. This is how, if you're playing Iron Man, you can fly, and how you can go into different flight modes, and how you can charge your attacks and stuff like that. And that's where I think the game got a little better in explaining some of the mechanics, because throughout the rest of the game, I felt like I was struggling to kind of get a grasp of how exactly I'm supposed to be playing these characters. And when it's finally explained later in the story, I feel like that's where the game kind of saved itself a little bit. But there are still some mechanics that I just didn't really enjoy, and I just felt like for a game that's been in development for a while, I feel like they could have done a better job. Now, as far as the story, I don't think there's too much to talk about that, mostly because, the full story hasn't been released yet. I don't want to comment on something that hasn't really been fully released, because that's, like I said, I want to give a more concept and more in-depth review when this game does come out in, the full release. As far as the story, I feel like it should be fine for most people. It's not the most complicated story, and it's not the most mind-boggling, but it's still an interesting story that I think people can get behind. Especially your most average players like me and some other people that I know. I think people will still find a way to enjoy it. Now, some other things that I don't particularly like about this game. So this is supposed to be a fully released game. It's not a free-to-play game. It's a full $60 game when it goes to release. And I know there's different pre-order packages and different bundles that you can get, either pre-ordering or buying the special pack with the game that give you different cosmetics, different resources to craft things with your characters, which I will get to in a minute because I have some thoughts about that. And just a bunch of other things that you can buy previously before getting the actual game. There's nothing wrong with that, because I know all of these other games do the exact same thing. But where I get an issue with is when I'm playing the game, you notice that there's kind of like this battle pass for each character. And, you know, obviously the battle pass isn't to make each character more powerful. It isn't to make each character, you know, more OP. It's really just for cosmetics and stuff like that. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that because, you know, Fortnite, the king of doing battle passes, has already done this. But it gets annoying because you're playing a $60 game. You've already paid the $60. If you're just playing this game normally, you've already paid $60 to play the whole complete game. Now the game is trying to convince you to spend more money, which, you know, again, nothing necessarily wrong, but it does get annoying when you're trying to play the game and it's just shoving a bunch of ads and special promotions and, you know, all this extra stuff when I'm just like, this isn't a free-to-play game. This company's already making money with a $60 game like anybody else. Adding all this extra stuff just for cosmetics, not even like improve your character or to do anything like that, I think it gets a little annoying. I think it's also unnecessary and it just kind of throws me off the game, considering it makes me feel like this game is just more of a cash grab, which, you know, in my honest opinion, it really is. Now, before I continue the rest of this, I kind of want to go on a different topic. So that way my overall opinion is kind of formulated at the end with kind of some of the other stuff I've said. And one thing I thought that was going to be interesting about this game was the items that you can collect throughout this game. One thing that I thought was going to be interesting about this game was the loot collecting. And after playing the beta, I was kind of disappointed. The looting in this game isn't necessarily horrible, but one thing I don't particularly like is you're looting and you find all these different items. Now the thing that I don't like about it is they don't actually change anything about the cosmetics or the skin of the character. They really are only there for improving stats and other forms of powers for each individual character. Now there's stuff for like improving Kamala's insignia, there's stuff for improving, you know, her wrists, gauntlet, whatever things. There's even stuff for Hulk to improve his spine, which I thought was a little weird. I don't necessarily understand why the Hulk has to have an upgrade for his spine. I think it's to improve his throwing range or how much he can throw. And I just thought that was a little weird because I'm like, why does the Hulk need to improve his strength, essentially, with different loot items? I don't think that's necessary for a character like the Hulk. And this is where it kind of comes into how these characters, I feel like, have been powered down so much, mostly just because of this looting system. It's so that it forces you to play this game forever in order to get to the level where you already want to be at the beginning of the game. Like, I don't want to have to keep upgrading the Hulk in order to not just throw a handful of rocks, but in order to throw 2 handful of rocks. Like, you see that? Like, that doesn't make too much sense to me. The looting system seems a little whack, and it doesn't improve anything on cosmetics. I know people don't necessarily like the cosmetics that you get from looting-based games. I feel like you gotta add in some cosmetic flair to that as well, and not just make it to where all cosmetics or any form of cosmetics you have to buy. Overall, the gameplay itself is nothing too interesting and nothing too out of this world. It's not the worst, but it's certainly not the best. There are definitely things that this game could have improved upon as far as the fighting mechanics or any of the mobility mechanics for that matter. I feel like this beta kind of made this game kind of a letdown at times. Now, that's not to say that people won't enjoy this game. I feel like there will definitely be people that will enjoy this game. I can definitely see people sitting at home going to play this game with their friends, you know, just playing as the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, all this, you know, the game can still be fun at times. I just think for the amount of hype and the amount of development that went into this game, I feel like this was kind of a letdown. There were definitely some better choices that could have been made, and overall, I think this game was just more of a cash grab rather than a passion project. Overall, I think the game is okay. I feel like some of the gameplay isn't the greatest, and I don't feel like a superhero while I'm playing it. I still feel like you can enjoy the game with friends, but if you're trying to play this game solo, then I don't think you'll have as much fun. I was really hyped for this game, and I know a lot of people were too. To me, this isn't a passion project, it's more of a cash grab, what with all the different promotional items that you can get before the game and even during the game. And I'm sure that even when this game goes live, there will be countless of other opportunities for when the game will want you to buy something. When the game does fully release, I'm going to give a more in-depth review and probably a little bit more organized as well. I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts out and give my 2 cents into how I feel about the beta at least. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that some of my ranting made some sort of sense to you. And like I said, when the game does release, I'm going to give a full review on it here. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like down below and subscribe if you want to see any more game reviews and stuff like that. Now, I know this channel is primarily a video and movie review channel, but But I do like to talk about games from time to time, and if there's any other games that you want my opinion on, then please comment down below. If you guys are interested, I'm going to be leaving my socials in the description as well as in the bottom part of this video right now. I'm going to be announcing more videos there. You guys can shoot me ideas, or you guys could like some of my random posts that I like to do. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.